So I think what would be worse than actually being sued would be if your business got sued and you had no idea what to do. I can't even imagine. That would be the worst. I'm sweating for you guys. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to teach you exactly what you would do if your business ever got sued, and I'm even going to include my best tips to make sure, hopefully, it never even happens. I'm Vander, an attorney turned entrepreneur who helps online coaches and service providers legally protect and grow their online businesses using my DIY legal templates and my Ultimate Bundle program. And here on YouTube, each week I share a brand new training with you, teaching you how to legally protect your online business and even grow your brand in the process. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe below and leave me a comment letting me know you're new here by saying hi in the comments below. And if you want to make sure you catch every new episode each week, ring the bell. So in this video, I'm going to share with you step by step exactly what you would do if you ever got a nastygram, which is the super official legal term for if you ever got a letter from a lawyer, or if you ever got sued. And I'll teach you exactly what to do so that you're never left worrying and wondering, or even doing and saying the wrong thing, which is probably what I'm concerned about for you the most. I'll even throw in my top tips on how to prevent getting sued by a client. So let's get into it. Okay, here are the 4 steps you should take if you ever get sued by a client or receive a letter from a lawyer. Step number 1, stop, take a deep breath, and don't do a thing. I know it's kind of weird that I'm telling you not to do something when I'm giving you steps, but it's actually very important that at the very beginning, we just take a moment to pause, because what I see here most often is that people react and they freak out, rightfully so, right? It's a very scary process. It's very emotional. Maybe you know the person who's suing you. Maybe you kind of felt like this might have happened, but it can be really overwhelming and really scary. And sometimes our instinct is to reach out to the client or the person who sued us, or shoot off a text message, post something on social media, respond to the lawyer, and you don't want to do any of that. Trust me. So it's very important that in step number 1, you just take a moment to pause and you don't respond to anybody who has reached out to you or anybody who is threatening or suing you. It's also important to remember in step number 1 that it's very important that you don't try to DIY it yourself at this point. So if you have received a letter from a lawyer or you've actually been served with papers for a lawsuit, it is not something to try to take on yourself. I'm a lawyer. I wouldn't take it on myself. So there are many, many reasons why, beyond just not maybe knowing exactly what to do or doing and saying the wrong thing, but we can actually implicate ourselves by accident by doing or saying something that we didn't even realize was like an admission, for example, or acceptance of guilt, for example. So we don't want to say anything. Same goes for if you ever get in a car accident, don't say I'm sorry, don't say anything, just stay quiet and call the police. So anywho, that's step number 1. We want to take a moment, pause, and not say or do a thing. Okay, step number 2. If you have business insurance, this is where you are to immediately, after you breathe and pause, are to send them whatever you've received. So it's always a good idea ahead of time, like don't wait until you get sued or get a nastygram in the mail to know who you need to contact in your insurance policy. So when you pull up your business insurance policy, if you have what's called a deck page, a declarations page, which is like the first page of your business insurance policy, and that's where it gives you all of the main information about your business insurance policy, what your limits are, all that kind of stuff. That should also indicate what your policy number is and who to contact. In the policy itself, now this is super important if you have business insurance, in your policy itself, which I hope you have a copy of, and if you don't, then please use this video as an excuse to go and get it and save it to your files, save it to your Google Drive, save it wherever you have your files. But in that policy itself, there's actually a notification section of making a claim, right? So every policy calls it something different, but it should be something about like initiating a claim or putting them on notice, right? Insurance companies actually have a requirement about how soon you reach out to them once you find out that you've been sued or you've received this letter. If you miss that window, you could actually miss the opportunity to get this covered by your business insurance policy. So it's really important that you have access to this business insurance policy, you know who to contact, and then you know what the period of time is that you need to send over this documentation. You really should just send it ASAP anyway, because remember, step number 1, you're not responding. So you want to do something about it. So we want to hand this off to the person that can go and handle this for you. Why do we give it to your business insurance company? Because if whatever you're being sued for is actually covered by your business insurance policy and you have the right kind of business insurance, then they will actually provide an attorney for you. That attorney will take on your case. They will respond to the lawyer or to the client on your behalf, and your insurance company will pay that attorney's fees. So that is huge, right? So we definitely, in step number 2, want to get in touch with our business insurance policy ASAP. Step number 3 is that if they haven't asked you for it already, then I guarantee you your business insurance, whoever they assign your case to, whatever lawyer or law firm they assign it to, is going to reach out to you as soon as possible and ask you for any and all documentation that you have regarding this situation. So it's a good time to make sure that you have your client contract ready to go. You want to make sure that you're able to provide to them the fully signed and complete version of the contract that this person signed to work with you, and then any other documentation you have for this client. So maybe there's something, some other communications, or maybe something, I don't know, happened, like some emails or something happened before this lawsuit landed on your lap. That's the kind of stuff that you're just going to want to give to the attorney so that they know what they're working with. It's also important to mention here that if you have business insurance, it's actually a requirement of your business insurance policy that you participate in the investigation of this lawsuit, right? So if they ask you for documents, if they ask you to attend a deposition, if they ask you to do something, essentially you kind of have to do it, or you could risk losing the coverage from your insurance policy. So it's really important that you don't ghost your lawyer, you respond to them in a timely fashion. You don't want to give them any reason to not cover your case, because that would mean you'd have to take it on and you would have to pay for it. Step 4, if you don't have business insurance, which if you don't have business insurance, make sure you watch my free legal workshop below so you can learn why you need it and how to go and get it. But if you don't have business insurance for whatever reason, or if your business insurance comes back and says that they don't cover your case for whatever you're sued for, it's really important that you reach out to a local small business attorney near you. So somebody who is a defense attorney, probably not a plaintiff's attorney because you've been sued, so you're the defendant. And you want to make sure that you have somebody who understands either small business, or depending on what you get sued for, that they understand the content of what you're sued for. So like if you're a health coach, for example, and someone says that you have made them sick, then you would probably want to get in touch with a small business attorney who also has some healthcare experience. That could be really beneficial to you. In this case, if your business insurance either doesn't cover you for this kind of case, or you don't have business insurance, then it's on you to pay for this lawyer and then pay for any settlement, or if it goes to court, any judgment that is found against you, if there is one. So that's also a very good reason to go back and revisit this idea of business insurance for your business. Now, for coaches in the online business space or service providers of any sort, we're typically looking at professional liability insurance. That's a type of business insurance, otherwise known as E&O, or errors and omissions. And then we can also look at commercial general liability insurance. So those are just 2 different types of business insurance. It's, if we had a little tree here, it'd be business insurance, and then there's professional liability and commercial general liability. There are many, many different types of business insurance, but in the online business industry, those tend to be the 2 most popular and required depending on what you're doing. So those are the 2 that I would explore getting for sure. Okay, so now that we're stopped sweating about the idea of ever getting sued, nobody wants to get sued. So how can we prevent this from ever happening in the first place? I'm all about prevention. So the first thing that I would do to make sure that I never got sued or could prevent it as much as humanly possible is to have a legit and lawyer drafted contract for whenever I work with someone. Even if they're not paying you money, even if you're just doing this on a trial period because you're getting your business up and running, they're a friend of a friend, they're paying you $5, $5,000, I don't care, use a contract and have that contract be a legit lawyer drafted contract, not one that came from your friend, not one that came from copying, pasting somebody else's online. We want your own contract that's actually been tailored to you, what you do, how you do it, and where you live and work. It's really, really important that you have your own contract. Why is it so important that you have a legit contract in order to hopefully prevent as much as possible anyone from suing you? Well, because a lot of times lawsuits come from miscommunications, misunderstandings, and things just not being in writing, right? So one of the reasons that people will sue you is because they feel like they didn't get something that they should have, or you didn't offer what you thought you were going to, or something like that, right? There's a misunderstanding And everybody's expectations are a little bit messed up. So that can usually be worked out by having a very clear contract. This is also though why I teach people that it's not just about having a contract and sending it off to people and having them sign it, but also about learning how to really embody the terms that are in your contracts and how to talk about them when you're on a sales call, when you're meeting a new client, when you're starting out. Really just learning how to say like, hey, this is like what my package really is. This is what my program includes, what it doesn't. This is who I am. This is what I am not. This is what I don't do. And the more that we can just be consistent and clear on those things, I think the more that we can avoid a lot of these misunderstandings and miscommunications. But having a contract is going to be really the thing that you need to seal the deal and say, hey, look, I told her that, there were only 10 calls included, or I told her that I was a lawyer, but that I'm not offering her legal advice and I'm not her lawyer, something like this. So it's really important that we have a legit, properly sent and signed contract. The second way that we can typically prevent people from suing us is by actually only promoting and marketing the kind of content that would attract the person that we're meant to help, right? So I'll talk about scope of practice in a second, but one of the most important things that when it comes to scope of practice, which is what you're legally allowed to do based on how you're educated, certified, whatever, so licensed. So one of the most important things about that is that you can't just tell people something, right? I can't just say, I'm a lawyer, I'm not giving you legal advice, and then go around giving everybody legal advice or doing things in which constitutes legal advice. Or if I'm saying I'm not a doctor, I don't give you medical advice, I can't go around diagnosing people for things. So it's really important that we remember like the content that we're putting out there is what's going to attract the people who want to work with us. And so we want to make sure that those two things match up so we end up working with people that we can actually help in a legally safe way. And the third way that we can prevent most people from suing us is by making sure that we're always staying within our scope of practice. So I think that this is where the majority of lawsuits come from in our industry, is when someone steps outside what they're legally allowed to do. And it either harms somebody else, or the other person figures out that you shouldn't have been doing that kind of work and then sues you for it, right? But if we're very clear upfront with people about who we are, who we aren't, what we can't help them with, and how they should actually make sure that they cross their T's and dot their I's instead, like talking with their doctor, speaking with a nutritionist, consulting with their financial advisor, talking with their therapist, all that kind of stuff, the more that we can do that, the more that we can avoid saying, having anyone say that we offered to do that for them. So it's really important that we both, again, only market our businesses with the kind of content that we are actually allowed to give out to people. And then that when people are working with us, we stay within our scope of practice and we don't offer them anything that we're not legally allowed to. If you're not allowed to create meal plans, don't go and create meal plans for people, because that's when you'll end up getting sued, not only because maybe that meal plan would have ended up hurting somebody, but once they talk to a lawyer and they find out, ooh, she wasn't allowed to be giving me a meal plan, you should sue her for that. You really open up the door to a lawsuit. So we want to stay within our scope of practice and only do what we're legally allowed to do. I have a really in-depth and thorough podcast episode on this on my podcast, On Your Terms. I'll leave the link below to listen to episode 2 of my podcast, On Your Terms, all about scope of practice, how to figure out what yours is, and how to actually make sure that you stay within it. And if you want to make sure that you prevent getting sued in your business as much as humanly possible, and you agree that it has a lot to do with making sure that you're working with the right people, I wanted to invite you to download my free email template pack, Pre-Qualify Before They Buy. It gives you 3 free email templates where you pre-qualify people as they onboard into your business or before they join your sales call to make sure that they are the right fit for you. So you can download all 3 of those free email templates in the description below. So before you go, leave me a comment below saying, yes, if this video was helpful. I really hope so. Until then, I will see you next week, and be sure to hit subscribe so you make sure that you always catch my brand new legal tip videos.